Welcome, my name is Andreas Patikis and I'm the founder of the Grey Cotswolds, where we offer unique courses and retreats around stress and well-being, anger management, parenting and sports performance for a healthier mind and body. Our venues are set in the beautiful and relaxing Cotswolds countryside with luxurious private dining and facilities. Our specialist team have vast knowledge and experience with beneficial therapies and advice, all in one place, to help with any challenges and empower you for life. Discover a new way of living through our podcasts and prepare to enter a world that is not black and white. Let us accept the colours in between. Welcome to the Grey Cotswolds. Welcome everyone, or I can say Galos Orisede if I'm going down the Greek road. This is our first episode around the Greek Cypriots community and their attitude and stigmas around mental health and counselling and therapy. And I know I said it's about the Greek Cypriots, but there may be other cultures watching this today where this could resonate with them as well. So stay tuned. I'm delighted to be sitting here with a fellow Greek Cypriot, Chris Evangelou.
How you doing?
How's it going?
Good, thank you.
So, first of all, and what I'd like to do is ask you how you're feeling today.
I feel good.
Yeah?
I'm happy. I'm happy being here with you guys, so thank you for having me.
Yes, you're welcome, Chris. You've achieved a lot in your career so far, and a few years back you was a successful boxing champion, as we know.
Thank you.
And what was you signed under Matchroom back then?
Yeah, well, I was with Matchroom Eddie Hearn, and then migrated to Frank Warren as well, and I boxed under Goodwin Promotions as well. So I went around a little bit, but yeah, I had the taste of Sky Sports and BT Sports and Box Nation, things like that. So yeah, it's good.
Sounds like an exciting time in your life.
Very exciting, a lot of pressure, very exciting, and I got to live out a dream of being a pro boxer. So yeah, it was good.
What did you sense you achieved by doing that?
What did I achieve?
What did you sense? What was your achievement in doing that? Because that can only be a dream for some people growing up.
I think you've got to ask yourself what you're willing to sacrifice to achieve something like that, because you can't just like walk into it, because firstly, you don't really earn much money at the beginning of any sort of career like that. So you've got to say to yourself, right, I'm going to go without for a long time and then later get rewarded, but train every day, wake up at 5 a.m., it's 4 a.m. sometimes in a freezing cold weather to go out doing sprints and then come home, go training, then fight someone for the day for, sparring, then training, killing yourself in the gym, all whilst you're dieting to cut weight. And then you go home, rest a little bit, then go back to another gym maybe and do something else which is going to benefit your training, and then go home and then sleep and then repeat that the next day. And that was for years. So the achievement was being able to focus on that and being fulfilled, that saying to yourself, do you know what, I'm a very ambitious person, and to be able to do that sort of quench the thirst of I'm going for something that not many people would want to do in their life, being a professional boxer or an amateur boxer, and it was just a sense of achievement that I'm going for something, I'm on that journey for that glory, but yeah, that's basically what, in a nutshell.
It's the picture you paint there is, we can sit there and dream about being a boxer, but there's a lot of hard work behind it, motivation, discipline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it takes courage to be in front of all your friends and family, TV and supporters, and also your opponent's supporters as well, and be punched in the face, and to keep going forward and trying to fight another human being who's done you no wrong. It's a sport at the end of the day, but we're in the ring. We know what it. We know what we're putting on the line, and then after the fight, you're friends. But when the bell goes, you give it your all, and you're literally putting your life on the line every time you step into the ring. And we've seen it time and time again that there are accidents and things that happen to boxers, but not many people would choose to do it. Like, I wouldn't want my son to be a boxer, or I don't have any children yet, but when I do, I wouldn't really want them to box. Play tennis. I'll be happy with that.
An easier sport. Do you miss it?
I miss aspects of my boxing career. I'm very happy now that what I was able to do in the boxing world. I had a lot of amateur fights. I travelled the world. I met a lot of people, and what it gave me was a discipline like no other. Where anything I do now, if I would just put the discipline of being a boxer in that, you give it everything. Like now I'm an actor. I wake up every day and I treat my acting career like my boxing career in terms of I have to do something every day, which either I'm training for it or I'm contacting someone or I'm progressing forward in my acting career. I'm not waiting for that phone to ring and just being like, oh, let my agent call me. I make the calls, I make the connections, and I think that's what boxing, really instilled in me. So I'll always be thankful to boxing for that, and the gym as well, which I own with my brother. Again, because he was a boxer as well, we both have that boxer's discipline to just keep grafting every day. So I do miss the glory days, winning a fight and things like that, and being treated so well, taking photos with people, signing autographs, and everyone on my Facebook and Instagram telling me congratulations. But I'm happy where I am now.
And where you are now, you just mentioned you've moved on now to your other passion, which is acting.
Yeah, my first passion actually.
I
My
was
first
reading
love.
about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've seen you in Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman, and I watched that film, and
Yeah.
love that film. I like Guy
It's
Ritchie
a good
films,
film.
but
Yeah.
great film. And when you told me, you was in it, I thought, wow, that's brilliant, because I know you're a grafter, like you just said. So, that discipline, like you just said, maybe from your boxing has led you down that.
Yeah.
What was that like being in The Gentleman?
It was amazing. It was about just under a month of filming and getting picked up to go to set and being treated so well by the production and the crew and meeting the other actors. It was literally like I was dreaming for the month. I'm in a room about to do a script, table read, and Matthew McConaughey walks through the door, and Charlie Hunnam, and then Hugh Grant, and all these people, and then obviously Guy Ritchie's there, and I'm just like, this is like a dream you have. Like, oh, I had a dream last night, and there was Guy Ritchie and Matthew McConaughey, and Colin Farrell came a bit later into the film. So it was crazy. It was an amazing time, and I just had to keep pinching myself to say, look, I'm actually here now. After, I mean, we'll probably touch on this, but after going through a very hard time, just after my boxing career, to be there was it was just an amazing feeling. Maybe a little bit more so than it would have been if I didn't go through all that I went through. But yeah, it was just it was brilliant.
You mentioned many actors there, so you probably was there learning from them and their art. What was your learning experience from that? What do you think you've taken from that?
That's a good question. So just how calm they were, the way that they were. We done it's called a black box reading, and basically what we do is we film in one room the whole film as if it's a play. It's just so they can just write any thing, tweak the script or whatever. And when I was in the room watching Matthew McConaughey, acting with Charlie Hunnam, and I'm watching them, I'm thinking this is like watching Mayweather sparring, or like some of the best actors in the world. I've got an Oscar award winner in front of me performing, and even though it was a script read, he was just so natural. And what I took away from that was just how calm he was just with everything, and the confidence was just there because this is what he's been doing for years. But the calmness and just being able to be not over dramatizing everything, and it was an honor to watch that, to be fair. Yeah.
Great experience for you.
Yeah, 100%.
Great experience
Yeah.
for you. And I know you're working on some other parts now. We've spoken a bit off air. Can we reveal anything to anyone in terms of what you're doing?
What am I up to now? So I've got. Do you know what? Everything's so NDA now. You've got to just be. Everything's a secret. They like to surprise everyone. So I've got.
I was trying to get an exclusive here, but
I'll give you as much as I can,
Yeah, go on.
which is good. So last year September, I filmed for Disney Plus and Hulu. I can't really say what the production is, but it's a series for them. And funny enough, every time I say I've filmed for Disney, they think it's kind of like a kids thing, but it's far from that. It's like a gritty adult themed Disney Plus series.
Yeah, my mind went there as well.
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
said
everyone
Disney,
does.
yeah.
Like, I'm not in The Lion King 5 or anything like that, I wish. But yeah, so that's going to be coming out this summer, which I'm really excited about because it gets to show my skill as an athlete in that as well, which is really good. And that's going to be pretty much on the world stage because that's coming out all in Latin America, and God willing here in Europe. And then I've just joined a production now, which is really widely seen in the UK, prime time. But yeah, so I've joined that too, which I've been filming this week, which is great. And then I'm actually producing a feature film with a few other producers as well and a writer. We've got my first ever it's a horror. which I never thought I'd be doing. But it's a great idea for horror. I've never really seen it done before, and I'm playing the lead in that. And we've got some really big actors attached to it. So that's going to be good. And we've pretty much finished the script, and getting everything ready. We're going to go to Cannes Film Festival this year and speak to investors, and so hopefully that gets done this year, and hopefully in time for Halloween. But we'll see.
And you don't need anyone with a shaved head and a beard in that.
We could put you in for sure, definitely. Well,
everyone needs one of them in a film.
Of course. But there's being again something else I've seen in the acting world is you can have any look you like and be an actor, because it's real life, isn't it? It's not one type of look. It's anything, anything goes. So it's how hard you put the work in. Yeah.
And you definitely put the work in, and to carry on with that work ethic, you've also run a gym with your brother in Cockfosters, don't you?
Yeah, just on the side every day.
Yeah.
So I run a gym in Cockfosters, the Fit Factory in Cockfosters High Street, and that's getting really good and very busy. We've got an amazing, bunch of members that I would say are my friends now, and I see them every day, and if anything, I see them more than anyone else in my life, because they come every day to classes and when I train them and stuff. So that's going well. It's just non-stop though. It's just always something to do. When you own a business compared to be working in a business, it's chalk and cheese. It's so different. It's easier to just walk into the building, do your work and go home. If there's a leak, if there's, something happened to the window or whatever, you could just go home. Let the owner deal with it. And then the problem is I am the owner.
You're there for that as well. And definitely. Hopefully you'll be there for us as well, because as part of the Grey Cotswolds retreat, we're looking at sports performance as well in the future. There could be a boxing retreat.
Yeah.
Collaboration.
They're very successful usually, because boxing is a really great tool for mental health and, anger and stress. Yeah, definitely helped me.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of happening in your life at the moment. How are you managing the stress of that?
That's a good question. I think you have to always keep your eye on why you're doing something, because I'm always like, when I relate this back to boxing, like when I'm training and I just literally can't go on, or I don't want to get out of bed at 4:30 and it's freezing, it's dark, or something gets, the pressure gets too much. You always got to say to yourself, why are you doing it? And if your why isn't strong enough, then it could, it will break you, and it will actually say, you know what? It's not, I'll eat this when I'm not meant to, or I'll go on that boys' holiday or whatever it is. But or I'll stop the press ups I'm doing when you've got more to do. You have to ask yourself why, and you have to have a strong goal. And that's why you've got to keep your eye on the prize and the reason why you're doing it. You have to enjoy the journey. The journey will be hard as well. You're not going to enjoy all aspects of it, but have that, have that idea that you're not going to enjoy every second of every day of that journey, but try your best to do it and get through it, and then you'll reach your goal. You'll reach that why, and hopefully, then it will all be worth it.
So you're very driven, and you're very goal oriented. I can see that, and you've got the graft, the motivation behind it. That's why you've got so much going on. So let's dive into some serious stuff around the subject close to my heart and yours, and hopefully it will ignite some thoughts and feelings and reflections in our Greek Cypriot community. And as some of you may know, I'm doing a research project into the stigmas around mental health and therapy in the Greek Cypriot community, and looking at stereotypical attitudes around religion, beliefs, values, masculinity, which all play a part in our upbringing. So as a culture, and looking at the research, it shows Greek Cypriots have compassion towards other people with mental health difficulties, but considered them to be inferior. So that's one aspect of things. So we have compassion, but what happens if it's us or someone in our family who's suffering? Chris, you're an ambassador for the Grey Cotswolds and this research project, and it's great that you're here to talk about these serious subjects which are close to us. And share maybe about your personal journey as well. So there's questions that I've set out as part of this research journey that I'm going to go through with you. And if anyone is watching who would be interested to be part of our research, whether it's online, over the phone, and answer questions like this to help us with our research, please do get in touch, because the more people we can speak to, the more we can help and bring awareness to this important subject. So I'll dive straight in. What was your upbringing like?
Do you know what, my upbringing was a little bit different to most in the Greek culture, because we didn't live in an area that was predominantly Greek. I only went Greek school for a little bit of time, and then we stopped for various reasons. Didn't join a Greek football team or league, and I didn't have that, what we call bareo of Greek friends and stuff. I went to a school that didn't have a lot of Greeks, so in a weird way I didn't feel as connected to that Greek community that most do, living in the Greek areas. So every time we went, every time I sort of went out with my friends that were a bit Greek, and all the Greeks had that clique, had that bareo of people that they knew, and I kind of always felt a little bit like the outsider, a little bit like the foreigner, even though I was Greek. I didn't really have that. So that was I felt a bit disconnected to that culture. And also my parents are quite a young generation of Greeks. They didn't really speak Greek at home, so my Greek isn't very good. I can understand bits, but it needs a lot of work. I'll definitely need a translator.
I was going to do it in Greek, but I thought
you can do it in Greek, but put the subtitles for me, please. Give me some cue cards. Yeah. But no, so yeah, my upbringing was, listen, everyone has different experiences. My father was part of the Greek church though, when I was very young, so I did go to the Greek church a lot, the Orthodox church and things, but that was sort of like the closest thing I was to in the Greek world, and obviously family as well. But yeah, that was my upbringing, was just like a typical kid, but not as Greek as most.
So who were your role models in your upbringing?
Role models, that's a good question. I think I always looked up to my brothers, my two brothers. So anything they liked, I pretty much took on. My oldest brother, he was always sort of like going through life first, and then my middle brother, and then me. So I got to learn. I got to learn what to do and what not to do in life, because I had two people going through it first, so they had to go through school first.
The guinea pigs.
Yeah. So when I went to secondary school, I was already known. There was two Evangelous before me, and they were quite separate in years. So no one really messed with me, because I had two older brothers that went through school. But my oldest brother had it the worst. He had the fights. He had to make a name for himself, and so he's the one that went through first. If anything, he had the toughest upbringing in that sense, my oldest brother. But yeah, I reckon I looked up to them the most. They were sort of like my role models, I would say, definitely.
So it sounds like, your relationship's good with your brothers, and, you had that. But were there any points in your upbringing where you felt sad, lonely?
Yeah, definitely. Sort of my teenage years, mid to late teens, my parents separated, which was a massive blow for me, because you never think your parents are going to separate. It's the family, isn't it? And they're the king and queen, and if they separate, your whole life just changes. So I had, I went through sort of my later secondary school years were a bit difficult. But it's when I went to college, that's when they separate, they went their separate ways in that sense. And that was hard. I was studying sociology as well, and one of the modules is family. That was really tough to go through, listening about the nucleus of the family and this and that, and what does this philosopher say, and what does this, whatever paper say on this, and that was very difficult. But my teacher back then, she was really compassionate, and she saw that I was struggling a little bit, and she really helped me out. But I got an A in sociology, so I was quite happy with that. But yeah, so that was difficult. That was the most difficult sort of time, I reckon, for my early years, because it was such a big blow to the family,
And you mentioned your teacher. They had someone to talk to, and having anyone to talk to is good, where we feel safe and secure to be able to do that. Yeah. What did you need at that time, do you think?
Did I need? That's a good question. I think just people to be understanding and know that you're going to be going through things in life, something as hard as that. And just people being understanding in a position that can help you. So like my teacher, for example, like when we had an exam and she knew it was going to be a bit tricky, or it wasn't an official exam, but it was one for her to give the students, she to Chris, well, then, today you go and study in the library for this one. And she allowed me to be excused, which I thought was really, really compassionate from her. But that was that. And also I kind of got what I needed, because that's when I started boxing.
Right.
And that's kind of what drove me to train. And then the night my parents announced that they were going to get divorced, and that was really, really tough. I remember it today. You know, it was really tough. But then the next day I was sparring. Bless the kid, I was sparring. I remember him, but I took everything out on him. And if anything, in a weird way, I wanted to get hit. I wanted to feel, you know, someone to punch me and fight. Like, I didn't want to have a sparring match. I wanted to have a fight, and I got it. I got it that day, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And that's what drove me to carry on training, carry on fighting, because the coaches were like, Chris, you know, we want you to become part of the team, and they got me the fights, and then I won the ABAs about a year later, and I was becoming really successful. So it was weird. It was like the worse my life got, the more success I had in the boxing world, because it was fueling that. I'm a very emotional fighter. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I have a lot of heart in that situation that what my parents went through and the family went through fueled that. So yeah.
I can hear all that, and it's, you know, I can feel it as well, what you're saying. My parents separated as well in my teens, and I think at the time as well, it was that flexibility maybe from school or teachers with my exams that I just felt, okay, they understand. I got a bit of a breather through that.
Yeah.
But still, there was something more I needed. You got it from your boxing, it sounds like, and it sounded like a brilliant way to let some of that energy out. But you also mentioned, you know, the church. What bearing did that have on your beliefs or what you were thinking and feeling at the time? What did religion and the church, what influence did that have on you?
Yeah, do you know, it's weird, because that's all I knew growing up was the church, because the year I was born was when my dad and my mum sort of found the church and became kind of Christians, and they were always Greek Orthodox, but when they kind of accept it kind of and become Christians and start going to church in that sense, and so I've always been involved in church my whole life. And then my dad started to go into teaching and ministering and part of the church, and then his job was in the church, so we were always surrounded by it. I think it was a bit tricky. I had the love-hate relationship with religion and faith and Christianity, because on the one hand it's like, you know, it's there to help, and oh, God is there with you and everything like that. But on the other hand, you're like, well, if God does exist and he's there for you, why is he letting my parents divorce? Why is he letting all this pain in the house? And why? So you have a lot of questions. So you're kind of like, well, you need to be strong and faithful. But then on the other hand, you're angry and you're frustrated. And I think me, my brothers and sister, my younger sister, like, I think we helped each other definitely in that time. So not just the boxing aspects of faith and religion, but my family. Like, I had two older brothers and the younger sister, and when I was angry and I wanted to do something stupid or whatever, I had two older brothers to help me out as well. So yeah, that's that.
And did being male have any influences in terms of how you thought things through, in terms of your beliefs about being a man? A Greek Cypriot man, or a Greek Cypriot man and the church thrown into that as well?
Yeah, there's a lot to think about in that sense. Where are we now? 2023. So I was like 18, so about 16. Let's say it was 16 years ago, 20 years old, 21. Yeah. So around the time that they got divorced and that, being a man was just what kind of was the alpha male, and you know, be a man, you've got to be strong.
And a boxer as well.
And a boxer. Couldn't really say how you were feeling sometimes, because it's seen as being weak. So I kind of like just kept it in it. But again, I had that funnel, I had that vent of boxing to kind of help. But I think if it was today, I know mental health is more known. It might have made things easier, but at the same time, I think being a man is a bit confusing these days, just because of what's out there now. And it's kind of like, well, it's hard to say what a man is these days or what a woman is these days. There's a lot of blurred lines now. So I think it might have been trickier today. But back then, I think, again, I had my brothers to kind of see how they dealt with it. It's kind of like, okay, that's how I should deal with it. So yeah, again, I kind of looked to them, my siblings, really.
So I think you're fortunate enough, the way you're describing it, that you had your brothers there.
I think if I was the oldest, my oldest brother, I think he had it the hardest because he never had that older brother to look to, or my dad was very heavily involved in the church, so even my dad really wasn't around too much because of the church, and understandable, like you're dealing with a few hundred people's problems mainly, because usually people that go to church, they're looking for something, or they have issues, they have problems, and my dad was always stretched dealing with that, and my mum was bringing us up and also working as well, so she had her part to play. So yeah, it was difficult for all of us in our ways. But again, I had boxing to get me out of things.
Would you have been open to counselling? Say someone said to you at that time, "Hey Chris, how about seeing a counsellor?" How would that have gone down with you?
I used to think then that seeing a counsellor was maybe quite weak.
Yeah.
And that's, that was just me growing up and stuff. It's nothing,
Well, I think for our generation, that's the thing, isn't it? It's weak straight away. Where's that come from, do you think?
That's a good question. I guess being Greek as well, like being the Greek, the man of the house, the head, the one who makes the decisions, the one who grafts, can't be seen to be weak. Otherwise, people sort of look down on you, especially in the Greek world, I think. But like I've been to America so many times, and like everyone has a therapist there. It's like, oh, who's your therapist? Like it's like having a mechanic. At the end of the day, there's not that stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
But I think being in London and being a North London Greek, there's definitely a stigma attached.
Well, say as it happens many times, you sit down with your doctor or GP, they may say, you could do with talking to someone. Go have some therapy. So back then and now, if that conversation's had, what's the difference for you?
Definitely now it's changed. I think it's a lot more, there's a lot more acceptance of, do you know what, people need to talk, and actually counselling is good, therapy is good for people, not just seen as something negative or being weak, I guess. I guess it's all to do with the alpha male, and, I think Greeks are very set in their ways a lot of the time. Like, like if a Bapur granddad was to watch television now, Big Brother, or like a new series on Netflix, he might not accept all of it, because of what the man is seen as these days. It's various different roles and looks, and he might find it a bit hard to be like, is this a man, or that's what I mean. Like, he's very old school. But today, like with myself, I mean, in the last 20 years, my idea has definitely changed, especially coming into a different world, leaving the boxing industry. I still box today, for fitness, and in my gym, and I watch it, and I still love the sport, but I'm not involved in the industry as much, and I'm not seen as a boxer, I don't think, as much anymore. I'm, hopefully seen more as an actor now, because it's what I do. But so I think there's a little bit less stigma attached to it these days, especially for me. I have a little bit less pressure to be like, oh no, I'm strong all the time, when I wasn't.
Yeah. And hearing you, what I'm getting is most of that thought is around masculinity, around being a man. It sounds like.
Yeah, definitely.
Greek, like you said, man of the house, get on with it.
Yeah.
And, everything else is sort of pushed aside. If you did have a counsellor at the time and you're sitting down with them, what would you have hoped for, needed from them?
When
it was all going on for you,
kicking off, just someone to talk to, and not have to go boxing and beat someone up to kind of let it all out, because at the end of the day, that only was a bit of a quick fix, because it's like my hit of adrenaline, bang, 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 and then I leave. I remember my coach actually telling me this. My coach saw one day that I was a bit down, and I was just hitting the bag. I was sparring. I didn't spar that well. And I remember this. He said, "Chris, you bring your baggage with you to the gym. You put it down at the door. You train. You pick it up again, and you go home. Don't bring it in the gym with you." I remember him telling me that, and I'm not saying that was a bad thing or a good thing. That's just the way how he wanted me to train, because he knew it was affecting me, and maybe he thought that was best. But again, it was a quick fix. It was that day that I'd feel great, and then that night when all the adrenaline comes down, and then all those thoughts come back, and then the situation, the reality is kicking in, that we're going to have to sell the house and not be at the house I've been raised in for 20 years. That's when the reality kicked in, and then that's when I needed more than the boxing. to be fair. So if I was to speak to a therapist or counsellor, it would be, what can I do if I'm not fighting? What can I do if I'm not training? How to deal with it in the long run, not just short term.
And what do you think a counsellor's job is?
It's a good question. I mean, you'll probably know the answer better than me. A counsellor's job, in my eyes, is kind of to be maybe a beacon of like they're like a hub where you can go and unload a little bit and give you tools to deal with problems, not for them to fix your problems, if that makes sense. So again, you give a man a fish sort of thing, that whole philosophy, and to give you equipment to deal with day to day when you're not with the counsellor. Mm-hmm. When you're at work one Monday morning, I get anxious on Mondays a lot. Even though I love my job and I look forward to starting the week. Weirdly, I don't know what it is on a Monday. I think it's because it's the start of the week. That's my most anxious sort of day, or in the past, it's been my most anxious day. If I was to speak to a counsellor, I'd be like, how can I deal with that? How can I not have Monday as, so anxious? Do you know what I mean? And wake up just having butterflies in my stomach all morning, and then hearing what they can tell me to do.
I asked that question because, again, it's about not only the stigmas about, can I go? Am I able to go? What will people think? Is it a weakness? But it's just even the awareness of what you actually get from counselling, and what people know about it. Because, in our generation growing up, I definitely didn't know anyone who went for counselling when I was younger. It just wasn't one of those, even an option at times. So you obviously haven't got any kids now, you've said, but if and when you do have kids, and if they have mental health challenges, what are your thoughts and views about that?
So, again, it's difficult. It's, I guess it's one of those things where you think, what would you do now? But then it's different when you're in a situation. But, I want my children or my nephews, my nieces, which are the closest to me for kids, to be able to speak and talk and not, kids tend to act out because that's the only way they know how to. They don't know how to talk the problems and vent in that way, or just say that something's bothering them. So they tend to do things which are more of an action. Mm-hmm. I've found in the last few years anyway. But if God willing, one day I have my children, I'd want them to talk and feel like they're safe to be able to speak their problems and not have a stigma attached to it, where it's again like what we said, where it's shown as being weak or whatever. To think, do you know what? It's okay. It's okay to not be okay. That's what I would hope for. Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you for sharing all that, Chris, and your honesty.
Thank you.
With personal things there, and drawn on your childhood there, and some things that sounded very raw still. In terms of speaking and remembering them. Yeah. So I appreciate that, and I hope that vulnerability and talking about that is there to come through for other people to be able to do that. And
I hope so, because I don't want these things to be in vain. It happened in my life, but if I can help someone else and say it's actually okay to, I went through this too, and then later in my adult life, other things happen, which other experiences, and then hopefully that I can help other people, get through that as well.
How are you feeling, having shared that with me? How are you feeling right now?
Good. I think if it was, a few years ago, it would be really raw, like a lot more raw, and things that haven't been brought up. But because I have had therapy and I have really spoken about these things to the therapist, it's not the first time I'm speaking about it. Because when I did speak about it for the first time with the therapist, I left the office or the therapy room like, oh my God, I've just been on a roller coaster of memories of, things that really affected me. So now I can speak about it because I've already dealt with it in that sense. I'm able to speak about it now and still be calm and be okay.
And it sounds like that therapy was helpful for you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%. I think it allowed me to deal with things that were, under the rug, kind of, that I knew was affecting me. So there was a source somewhere that was affecting me, but I didn't deal with it for years. Years, and it would come out in different ways. Come out in my relationship, come out in my business, come out in other ways, and things that I wouldn't want it to come out in. So then I was like, right, let's open this book of trauma and deal with it. you know, and thank God I did, and I sought help.
Well, trauma is a Greek word for wound, so those wounds were there. So what enabled you to actually go for therapy, whereas all those things, the beliefs you had about masculinity and things that may have stopped you from doing so before, what was it that enabled you to get therapy?
It was my relationship at the time. We had a huge, I say an argument, but it was a huge episode. And when we sort of made up and spoke, I said, look, I've got these issues that I need to sort out. And then she said, well, look, why don't you try going for therapy and stuff? Because it wasn't just about the relationship. It was about my relationship with my father. It was about my relationship with the family. It was what happened with all as far back as when I was a kid. Therapy allowed me to realize it was stuff that happened way back, which was still affecting me in my day-to-day life and my relationships. So that's what the kick up the butt was having that relationship problem. And then I went to therapy, and that's when I realized, wow, didn't know that all this stuff was still affecting me. Yeah.
And it's often circumstances or situations like that that take us to therapy.
Yeah.
And it happened with me exactly the same way. I suppose as men, as being within this culture, we see it as it's just the way we are at times, and weakness is another part of it. It's seen as maybe a weakness, but it sounds like for you, it gave you that awareness to then understand maybe what's been going on from your past, but what's going on and how it's presenting in the present with your relationships.
Yeah, 100%. And I realized maybe in the past relationships as well, it's like, wow, okay, so that was going on then as well, or that's why that happened, or whatever. And it kind of allows you to say, I know this is weird because we are a victim of our trauma, but also it takes away that feeling of I'm the victim all the time. Actually, I wasn't the victim at that time. I was actually kind of the villain, but I was the villain because of this. And it allows you to identify that and probably not, and learn from it. And then when next time, God forbid, something like that happens, you identify that can be the problem, and deal with it better.
And it sounds like it removes some guilt, because if, I don't know, you've behaved in a certain way and you think, okay, that was my fault, or I wish I hadn't done that or said that, there might be some guilt there, but with an explanation.
Yeah, and there was a reason why that happened, and maybe you're like, you know what?
Doesn't excuse the behaviour.
Yes, 100%.
But you've got a reason as to what may be going on, and that maybe removes some guilt. Was there any shame for you in any of it? Because that's a
little bit,
a deeper
way
to
go. Because then now you're putting the responsibility on yourself, and you're accepting that that I have a fault in me, or whatever. But yeah, of course it does. Going through life, nothing can. You can be excused up to a certain level. Like, obviously, I didn't do anything too bad in my life in that sense to hurt people. I tried not to. I've always tried to be a good person. I'm not perfect in any way. So
no one is, and we're all human.
Exactly, and it kind of, I think I understand what you're saying. Yeah, it did, take away some shame or some guilt and stuff. But I think the real thing, the takeaway I got from the therapist was, there were things that I didn't know that were affecting me. There was a parasite there that was there that I had no idea. It's like going to the doctor and them saying, you got a parasite. And you're like, oh my God, that's why I've been feeling tired all the time. That's why I've had a headache, or that's why I've done this. And now we found the problem. Now we need to deal with it, and that's what therapy was for me, when I went through that.
And it's that insight that allows, you're supposed to find peace.
Yeah.
And if the work that you've done with your therapist there, I imagine that work you did together, rather than you sat down and you said, hi, I'm Chris, and this is what I'm experiencing. You should scribble down as a doctor does, here, go and do that, or here's your prescription. You work together.
I was offered to take that route, the medication route, and antidepressants or whatever, and not against them in any way, but I just thought, do you know what, let that be the last resort. So I'd done the therapy first, and I actually went through the NHS, which was a bit of a long route, but they had things in place where it might take 6 months to get a therapist, but in the meantime, I did group therapy first, and every week we all spoke and a little bit, but it wasn't sharing. It was more listening for tools and stuff to every week. So this tool was to help you with this and this. That was more listening. But then when you kind of, you don't graduate, but when you do like the 10 weeks of that, you go on a short list for a therapist. And thank God I found someone who I was able to speak to. And I went, because it was COVID times, a few of them were phone calls. And then I was able to go in person, which I thought was a lot better. I was a little bit like this, really, just not with the camera on me. But
we're having a therapy session now.
Not that's here, just filming me. But yeah, so that was that. So I don't ever think. I know NHS can be draining and time, you know, is the time duration could be long, but that there was that help for me there, you know, and thank God I did find a therapist through that. And really I stopped therapy because I felt like I was okay, but I could have easily have carried on if I said to them, listen, I still think I need more, they would have carried it on. So it wasn't like a limit. So yeah, there's definitely ways that people can help you, and you know, and it didn't cost me anything because it cost me my taxes, but that was already gone anyway. But so it wasn't anything extra.
Well, there was a few things again from the research I didn't read to you at the beginning because I wanted to hear I didn't want anything to influence your thoughts and thinking, but just a few things that comes out of the research. So Greek Cypriots have respectful authority figures and elders. I think we can go with that, can't we? There's an expectation on sons to exceed their parents.
God help me, my dad is like an MBE, church minister, archbishop, charity ambassador. He's done so much.
You've got some work to do.
We've got a lot of work to do. I guess it just runs in the family. We're just overachievers. We just always want to just keep doing everything. Yeah. But yeah, I guess.
Is there any pressure then on you, do you feel?
Yeah, of course there is, I think. Because like growing up, if I wasn't as ambitious, not that I care like what people think in that sense, you know, if I just had, you know, a typical job or whatever, my dad, he's done so much. He has a lot of strings to his bow and he's very respected and he's got so much that he does in his life. Like, you know, in the church world, in the boxing world, I mean, he's a promoter now, works with Frank Warren, like how that happened. And he's got charities, he does a lot, he's written books, he's got books selling in China now, for goodness sake. So, do you know what I mean? It's all over the world. And I think we were in my dad's shadow. We could have been in my dad's shadow for a long time. But I think, I don't know, I kind of, it kind of came down in sort of through genetics maybe, but we're very ambitious people in my family and we always want to strive to be the best of our field. So I guess it, you know, it was a good thing. But it could definitely have been very difficult, you know, if we weren't as ambitious, or if we were ambitious but didn't succeed in anything. But yeah, I agree with that. But my dad just keeps going. So it's
always chasing up behind him.
Always chasing. Yeah.
There is shame associated with a child's academic ability. So
yeah,
I think
failing at school.
Yeah,
and, you know,
there's that pressure on. I felt as kids, you know, and especially me and my friends, and you know, and the parents, you know, got to do well at school, and which is natural.
Yeah.
Which is natural, but I think there's that part of the research is more where there could be shame from the parents if the child doesn't do well. So that pressure.
Yeah.
As well.
I guess our culture's definitely like that a little bit. But my family wasn't so much like my parents never was like, right, let me check your homework. Let me, you know, have you done this? Have you done that? It's kind of left to us a little bit. I had a few Indian friends. They had it a lot worse than I think we did because, you know, doctors, dentists, the academic needs to be up here, and they used to tell me all the time what it was like. I mean, their parents were on them.
Yeah.
So I don't think I had it as bad, to be honest. I mean, I was a boxer for God's sake, so there wasn't any academics in that. Even though I was very smart, you know, saying myself like I'm boasting, I'm not meaning it in that way, but I done well because I'm a perfectionist in life, and I put a lot of pressure to do well. So when I was studying, I had all my subjects all around me, all the books, and every day I had to have complete silence, you know, and study. But I put that pressure on myself because I wanted to get the best grades. And I think out of my siblings, I've done the best academically, apart from my eldest brother later on in life. He done so bad at school, but then he went into uni and then completely changed his whole life and became a psychologist and got a master's, PhD, and he then took over. But in the secondary school years and college, I put a lot of pressure on myself to do well. Yeah.
And parents will do everything they can so their children will prosper. Now, I think parents from, most parents would want that. But I see that as well in our community where they'll do anything and everything. So this pressure is more, I see it on the parents where they will sacrifice, as parents do, but in our culture as well, where they will do anything they can. And that pressure sometimes, especially for the male, if they haven't got anywhere to go and things maybe are not going so well, that could be a lot that they're carrying inside.
Yeah, as a father. Yeah. No, definitely.
Children need to obey parents, mistrust the outside world, and do well in life and uphold family values. That's what we we do a lot of. And children pay attention to who delivers the message rather than what the message is.
Yeah.
So whether we're looking at mum or dad or priest in our culture, maybe, I think growing up, again, whether it was Greek school or going to church on a Sunday, it's like whatever the priest said, that was that was it. There was no...
Especially if your grandparents are involved and listening to the priest and then the parents and then the children, because, the priests are so kind of respected, aren't they? And honoured, and, you kiss their hand, and, it's our culture, I guess. And the religion, the Greek Orthodox is a very strong Greek teaching with the family especially. Yeah.
So many different things there, and I think this research shows many factors towards how unhealthy mentally we can be without actually getting the support and help we need. And with that comes pressure, the stress, and then that stress fuels the anger and then the rage. And we're a passionate group, Greek Cypriots. We're passionate in our ways.
Definitely.
And there's passion, but then when it becomes rage and that behavior becomes unhealthy or not the right way to express how we're feeling, that's when it becomes an issue. And look, I'm a very proud Greek Cypriot, but it just seems like we need to do some work on our education awareness, maybe come up more with where the world is at the moment, and help our current generation and future ones. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah, I think it's getting better, I think, because of the generations that have been living in London. We're a bit more used to more modern, up-to-date things. Growing up, we have social media now, so we get to see a lot more. Like, when I was growing up, we didn't really have that, when I was a kid, and I'm thankful we didn't, to be fair. But, we're learning from so many different things now. Either it's, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it's going to be, you're learning from different sources, whereas before, the only real people you're learning from were your teachers, your parents, really, and your friends were an influence.
Yeah.
But now you don't even need to have friends because you're getting it all from videos online. So I think it's easier to learn different cultures now and different upbringings and different ways of doing things, but it's also harder to control as well. And I've definitely seen that in my nephews and nieces and stuff, and seeing what they're watching, and it can be great because I've learned so much from social media. And the way that you're, I know, so I'm trying not to go off the topic here, but let's say, for example, I'm on social media, the more type of video I watch, the more that type of video pops up.
Yeah.
So if I'm watching a lot about AI technology, which I have been, a lot more of that pops up. So I'm now becoming really educated on AI and, and all that stuff, and I'm learning. But, if I'm a 10 years old boy with that in my hand and I'm watching videos on relationships or what love is or anything, and I'm probably at 10 years old looking at games and stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be fed from that a lot more than any other thing else in the world, because I'm only at school for a certain time. My parents, they're going to tell me things a few times of the day, but if I'm on my phone or on the iPad, whatever, for hours a day, just taking that all in, I'm going to learn from a different source, and that source so much more. So I think it's actually a bit harder now to keep it safe.
Yeah.
Especially for kids.
Yeah, it is difficult, and it's a difficult world. But you're here with us today, and as an ambassador for Greek Cypriot, research and what we're doing here. What are you hoping people will get from the podcast today?
Just examples of like someone like myself who's been through things that maybe people don't want to go through or experience, but how I dealt with it. To understand that, getting help isn't a bad thing. It shouldn't be seen as anything negative or weak. Therapy is a very, very useful tool. And I think everyone should be maybe not necessarily taught about it, but presented that there is an option for having therapy. And to know that, again, I think the bottom line is it's okay to not be okay. And I think people need to understand that, not put so much pressure on themselves that everything needs to be perfect, because nothing ever is. No relationship is perfect. People go through so much. Similar things, obviously very different with what they go through, but similar feelings. And just to know that it's okay to talk.
Yeah, I think you've summarised that pretty good, and it definitely is okay to talk there.
Yeah.
So if this interview with Chris has got you thinking, or if you've got any questions, or it's raised anything for you within the culture, within masculinity, within religion, within anything that affects your thoughts, or if you just do need to speak to someone, get in touch with us and we can help guide you and support you through that. Chris, it's been amazing to catch up and do this, and I'm sure we're going to have more conversations along the way. How are you feeling?
Definitely. Yeah, good. Thank you for having me today. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
This is Andreas Patikis, your fellow traveller on life's journey, signing out.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any thoughts, feelings or reflections on today's podcast, please leave them on the comments section on our website or social media channels. You can find more episodes and information at www.thegreycotswolds.co.uk. This is Andreas Patikis, your fellow traveller on life's journey, signing off.